The Hartley Show is an entertainment program and does not own any of the copyrighted material featured in this episode. All copyrighted material featured will be used as fair use for the purposes of criticism, comment, news reporting, and/or research. Taki taki. Today on The Hartley Show, I'm going to talk about the Scarlet Speedster himself, the fastest man alive, DC's very own, The Flash. Now, The Flash was created in 1940 by relative unknown artist Harry Lampert and comics legend Gardner Fox. But he's not the Flash you're thinking of. He's not Barry Allen or Wally West. He was a guy by the name of Jay Garrick. And just for the record, I'm going to give you a rundown right now of the history of The Flash because it is somewhat convoluted. Now, as I said, The Flash started off as Jay Garrick, a scientist who strangely happened to breathe in just water vapors and gained the power to run it pretty much faster than the speed of sound. Now, the first Flash comic lasted until 1949, and let's be honest, it wasn't that good. But the last issue was fantastic, and it was probably Jay Garrick's best villain, an alternate version of himself, kind of a bizarro Jay Garrick Flash rival. And if they had done more stories like that, it may have even lasted a little bit longer. So the series ended in 1949 and then just sort of vanished off the stands. The second Flash, Barry Allen, was introduced in 1956 in a comic by the name of Showcase and is heralded as the dawn, the beginning of the Silver Age. Now, Barry Allen's origin was a little bit more rooted in science, although of course it's the usual batshit crazy science. He was in front of a rack of chemicals that contained one of each chemical known to man. It was struck by lightning, and this lightning-infused chemical rack doused him and gave him the ability to move faster than the speed of light. The coolest thing about Barry Allen was he was a guy who was always late, and even though he was faster than light, faster than light, well, he was still always not on time, was what I'm trying to get at. The second Flash was originally the Barry Allen Flash's sidekick, Kid Flash, Wally West, who was granted the powers of super speed through actually the exact same accident that created the Flash. Coincidence of coincidences, they were hanging out in front of the rack of chemicals and another bolt of lightning struck that and created Kid Flash. Originally, Kid Flash used to wear the exact same outfit as the Flash, but eventually got his own uniform in another batshit crazy storyline where the Flash decided to give him the ability to create whatever costume he wanted that was in his head. That makes sense, right? So the third Flash was the guy I was just talking about, Wally West. The second Flash, Barry Allen, died in a series called, well, comic died, in a series called Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985. There was a brief period of time where there was no Flash comic, and then the book got relaunched with Wally West as the Flash, but the key difference being was that Wally West couldn't move faster than the speed of light, he couldn't vibrate through things by moving his body molecules at this crazy speed, and he had to eat continually. Of course, he also had a neat little job. In the second incarnation of the Flash as we know him, the Wally West Flash, he was a courier. Now, his reign lasted almost as long as the Barry Allen reign. There was a brief period of time where Wally West wasn't the Flash and Bart Allen took over, Bart Allen being Barry Allen's grandson from the future who became, well, initially he was a character by the name of Impulse, and he became Kid Flash, and then eventually he became the fourth Flash, but his run really didn't last very long. It was a crappy run and ended with him being oddly killed and somehow coming back. That sounds so unique in comics, right? And then eventually they brought back Wally West. He had a family, but that didn't last long either. And then they brought back Barry Allen again in a series by the name of Final Crisis, which then led to Flash Rebirth, which was okay, but not that good. Now, there are a host of Flash characters that aren't either Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West, or even Bart Allen. There's the Stan Lee Just Imagine version of the Flash. There's the Tangent Comics version of the Flash, both females I might add, and another female version of the Flash, currently in JLA 3000, who's a pseudo-clone of Barry Allen and some weird scientist gal. That comic is fantastic, by the way, and they just brought back, spoiler alert, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. Little known fact, the original Flash, Jay Garrick, got his powers from inhaling hard water vapors, which, as anybody knows, is just water. That's really fucking stupid. Now, of course, with the creation of the Flash in 1940, there was, of course, a host of other speedster characters that followed suit. And classically, you had guys by the name of the original Quicksilver, who now is known as Max Mercury, one of my personal favorite Golden Age characters, the Wizard, who gained his powers through a mongoose blood transfusion, and he was able to run faster than a train. Of course, you've got Jesse Quick and Johnny Quick. Johnny Quick being the original version, Jesse Quick being his daughter in the future. Johnny Quick discovered some sort of weird math formula that enabled him to move at super speed and fly. And then there's the alternate reality version of Johnny Quick, who's more actually of an alternate reality version of the Flash. Johnny Quick, who's the evil version, who's in the crime syndicate. Of course, you've got the Marvel speedster, the main one, Quicksilver, and then you've got their sort of more obscure character, Makari, who's one of these Eternals. He's sort of like a Greek god, but not really, almost like a cosmic Jack Kirby version of the gods. And then, of course, talking about gods, you've got Mercury, Hermes, the original speedster. Now, of course, when you're talking about the Flash, the question has to be asked, who is the fastest man alive? And I'll get to that. Now, originally, of course, Jay Garrick was pretty much the only speedster, and they didn't quantify things so much back in the 40s. But eventually, when they created Barry Allen, and they went on about him being the fastest man alive, there was a little bit of a competitor, Superman. Superman was kind of the best at everything. So they would regularly have these great comics which featured a race between Flash and Superman, and classically, they'd always be neck and neck. Go figure. But, you know, eventually somebody at DC realized, wait a second, Superman's got everything. He's got the super speed, he's got the super strength, he's invulnerable, he's got super ventriloquism and super hypnosis. Maybe we should just give Flash the fastest man alive moniker. And sadly, the first time he actually beat Superman in a race, their legs were paralyzed. They were dragging each other across the ground by their hands, and the Flash won that race because they didn't want to make it so obvious that the Flash might be faster. So, saying that the Flash is the fastest man alive then asks the questions, well, how fast is he? And the Flash, the Barry Allen version, was so fast, and actually this relates to Wally West as well. The Flash was so fast that he can outrace himself. He could run faster than the speed of light. He could travel through time. He could actually get to his destination before he left, which puts absolutely in the dust every other speedster. Quicksilver, the guy can move at the very, very best, maybe faster than the speed of sound. Yeah, suck it, Quicksilver. Now, about 3 years ago, DC relaunched their entire line of comics in something called the New 52 that most people know about already. And one of the things they relaunched was, of course, the Flash. Now, that pretty much stayed the same, but they did de-age the Flash. Classically, Barry Allen, that's the Flash I'm talking about right now, was married to Iris West. They removed his relationship with Iris. He's still a police scientist, or a forensic scientist as it was, but they've also adjusted little things, like his ring that the costume comes out of. Now it's not just a cloth costume he puts on at super speed. It still comes out, but it attaches itself to him in all these funky little bits. And there's more lines in the costume, little bits of his costume. When he runs, they actually light up and go all yellow. They've still got the energy crackling effect from the Speed Force. The Speed Force, of course, being a thing that was introduced in the 90s by Mark Waid to explain how it is the Flash can move so fast and defy the laws of physics. Now, when the book first came out, it was written by Brian Buccellato and drawn by Francis Manapul. There's a writer whose name I've totally forgotten, but well. It was a really fantastic book with great art, lots of double-page spreads. The only bummer about that series that, of course, classically DC, when they translate their books to collected editions, you lose a lot of the art in the gutter spaces. But I must say that the first volume, they actually did a half-decent job, but still, lots of double-page spreads, so some of the art got turned to poop when collected, but it's been a great run overall. Now, the original creative team left the book, and right now we've got a new creative team. They found a couple of valiant comic writers, Van Jensen and Robert Venditti, I think his name is, and they're joined by one of my favorite sort of fanboy artists, Brett Booth. He's kind of a hit and miss with a lot of people. A lot of people can't stand his art. A lot of people love his art. Yeah, you know how it goes. And I'm really enjoying what they're doing right now. Now, they've reintroduced Wally West into the DCU, but he's not the Wally West you know. He doesn't have any powers yet, and interestingly and very controversially, he's black now. The only thing that I have a problem with them reintroducing Wally West as a black character is that when they reintroduced him, he was in trouble with the law, which is the cliche of all cliches when you introduce a black character. He's running from the law, the man's trying to get him, and that actually offended the heck out of me. I felt like they should have just reintroduced Wally West as the classic Wally West, or at the very least, sort of a strong moral character, not this weird gray take on him where the man's coming down and he's spray painting the walls. That to me just felt like a cliche, your classic cliche of white old guys giving people a cool black character who's got problems with authority. But it's been a great book overall past that. The current storyline involves the Flash from the future, Barry Allen still, who's 10 or 15 or 20 years older or so, and he's come back in time to kill Barry Allen because he's messed up the Speed Force and he's in the future he's caused the death of Wally West and blah-bitty blah blah blah. I make that sound like it's not cool, but it's been a lot of fun and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Little known fact, Wally West gained his powers in an almost identical manner to Barry Allen, but the bolt of lightning that struck that rack of chemicals that spilled on Wally West was in fact Barry Allen.
I actually knew that.
Now, you can't really talk about The Flash without addressing his current show on the CW, The Flash, which got the best ratings of any CW pilot of all time, led to it getting a full season order. And, you know, all of us in the show have actually worked on the show, I think, except for maybe Steve. Steve, have you worked on the show?
He's not Steve.
All of us but Steve and Grant Gustin, I think I speak for all of us, is the nicest guy imaginable. He's pretty much the actual personification of Barry Allen. He's courteous, he's smart, he's everything you wanted of a Barry Allen except for a blonde, but who cares about that? Now, the most remarkable thing about the Flash TV show, as a giant Flash fanboy, it's also the first comic I ever collected, I might add, is that it really follows suit with the comic books, but in this really unique manner. They keep on sort of doing what Arrow's doing. You think they know where they're going with the character. They introduce someone like Eddie Thawne, who we're all going to think is the Reverse Flash, and they show sort of what we think is the Reverse Flash. But it's all about the red herrings. The further along the show has gone, the more you just don't know what's going on and what's really happening. And I really don't want to talk too much about it because there's great spoilers out there. And quite excitingly, they're just about to have a crossover with Arrow. I love crossovers. And you may even notice we just had a little interview with the old weather wizard himself, Chad Rook, who was a swell guy. And of course, it does appear there's a future for the Flash in the world of the Warner Brothers DC Cinematic Universe. But oddly enough, or at least it seems odd to all of us fanboys, they cast this dude by the name of Ezra Miller and not Grant Gustin. It could work out. I mean, how much worse could it be than Batfleck, right? So there you have it. DC's Scarlet Speedster himself, one of my all-time favorite characters and my favorite secret identity of all time, The Flash. As always, a giant thanks to Taz for letting us film here, a big thanks to you for watching, and a special shout out to Chad Rook for doing an interview with us last week. He was so fanboy sexy, he made me nervous and sweaty.